It is a mentality that shuns excuses and focuses on what's at stake. A mindset that resolves within itself that you must totally empty yourself to experience victory. A memory that remembers that who and what you are playing for is bigger than you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fourth Quarter Christianity Podcast, a podcast where we utilize sports as a metaphor for life to convey spiritual truths and to help with practical Christianity. I'm your host, Daniel Webster, and I'm so thankful again that you have tuned in this day to this episode. In this episode, we have a very special guest in Destiny Dendy. I believe that the two of us met back at Polishing the Pulpit in 2018, where we were able to have a conversation with each other, sharing a game of pool, and just having all around good time and simply just learn each other. I'm so thankful for our relatively new friendship. I'm thankful that she's my sister in Christ. But more importantly, I'm also thankful that she has done the remarkable and accomplished the remarkable things that she has so far in her life. And she's able to impart a good amount of that wisdom with us in this episode. We talk about things ranging from the meaning of a tomboy, the stigma of female athletes and female weightlifters, all the way to just very general things that females oftentimes struggle with. I hope that if you are a girl and maybe you can relate to some of the things that we discuss in this episode, or maybe you know a female who can relate to the things that we discuss in this episode, please share this episode. Please leave a rating and a review letting me know whether or not this episode was beneficial to you. Again, I'm so thankful that you have taken the time to tune in to this episode. Without further ado, we'll get right into the conversation with Destiny. Destiny, great to have you on the show today. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm glad to be here.
I am fantastic. I told you earlier before we started that I live in Nebraska now, and it is freezing here. Okay, 1 degree. And
I don't envy you.
hey, I want to be around some warmer weather. I do love the winter though. So I'm not originally from Alabama, so I'm not a huge fan of summer.
Right.
However, we are expected to be in the negatives next week, -2, -15, and so on. So, but I'm excited to have you on and looking forward to our conversation. Before we begin, I just want to set aside some time to just allow you to introduce yourself. I know that you are a young business owner, which is great. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that and what your business is all about.
Okay. All right. So, well, my company's called Beyond Our Best. I kind of coined the term just from just ideas that I had when I was younger. I started the idea around 2016, and during the time I was actually playing college basketball in Louisiana, and just kind of took off with it. We initially just made T-shirts with sayings on it and Bible verses, and just kind of it was more like a movement, just kind of something that we just wanted to, hey, like, I had a friend of mine named Ray, and we just, we were always the motivators, get everybody hype in practice, let's get it,
I
and so we
understand.
just totally just, took off with it. She made her own brand as well, so we just kind of both are doing our own thing. But yeah, so that's kind of where I got started. It officially made it, an actual business here last year in 2020. So we're LLC now.
Okay.
Right now it's mainly just personal training. I do a lot of group training. I work with a lot of young athletes. Also working with a lot of mothers. As far as clothing lines and stuff like that, we have like, t-shirts and different things, socks, more sports, arena type stuff. Just, for the active kids and things like that. But it just pretty much is a movement. I kind of really started with the idea of having a brand that even us as Christians could represent. You don't have to worry about there being any underlying, or ulterior motives and stuff like that. It was
Right.
it was legit. This is what it is, and then and it's modest. It's got a good, we can use Bible verses. We've got good, background and everything. So that's kind of where that idea came up.
Well, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I was going to go into the thought of it being a movement and not just a company. I
Yeah.
love the slogan. I love the phrase that you came up with, and even decided to name your company after. And that's something that I look at as I wouldn't really define myself as an athlete, but I love to work out, and I think about being beyond my best.
Right.
I in football and other sports, athletes can relate to this. You always hear give your best, right?
Right. Right.
Sometimes I know as a Christian, your best isn't good enough. Your best
Mm-hmm.
isn't the best that you can do. For me, I may go in the weight room and I'm not feeling up to it today. So 3 reps of maybe 225 on bench press is okay with me. I'm fine. But actually, I
Mm-hmm.
can do more than that. But it's because I'm too tired. I don't want to push myself, right? But in
Exactly.
Christianity, Jesus wants our all. And so maybe as we continue our conversation, we can maybe talk about the parallel between the phrase beyond your best, and then talk about how that can relate easily over to Christianity and what we should do as our Christian responsibility and service. So
Oh, for sure.
I want to get in a little bit with the idea of some of the clients that you work with. I know that you said you work with young athletes, mothers, and just kids who are active in general. And what do you like in your experience? Why do most of your clients desire to transform their bodies? Like, is it a good reason you think, or what do you think?
Most of the time, yeah, it is. I would say more often than not, it is. I think I find mostly that people come with the idea of, well, we'll start with my mother generation, like the generation or the population, sorry, that are mothers. They're more of, hey, I see a problem. Hey, I'm worried about everybody else. I need to focus on myself. Is what is I always tell them that, you're somebody who's taking care of everybody and their mama, as we like to say.
Right.
so I was like, yeah, it's time for you to focus on yourself. So usually with mothers, it's hey, I got this health, or I'm uncomfortable and unsatisfied with this, that, and the other. And it's kind of most of the time it's legitimate reasons, health reasons. And so I encourage those. With kids, of course, I want to be like Kobe. I want to be like
Yep.
Curry. I want to be this, so they're kind of like, they're young. They don't see uh, the potential they have just with themselves,
Right.
you know they kind of want to, they look up to somebody, want to be like them. So we train with the hopes of getting, football skills like, with JJ Watt, and quarterback skills, like Drew Brees, and Tom Brady and all these guys.
Mhm.
But but still, it's like, I kind of, when I get them and work with them longer, then it's like, hey, let's develop the skills that you have. So you're not going to be the next Tom Brady, but you're going to be your person. You are going to be the next
Mm.
top athlete and stuff like that. And so
I love.
kind of what I like to work with. But yeah,
Uh,
for the
yeah.
most part, most people. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I was about to say I love that idea. Getting people to be the best them that they can be,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think we would agree that it's fine to have a role model that's a professional
Yeah.
athlete. And you mentioned Tom Brady. Hey, that guy's the GOAT. Tampa Bay just won the Super Bowl. So
Relevance.
well, I know that you said you well, I know that I follow you pretty closely on Facebook, and especially when preparing for interviews and stuff like that, I try to gather as much as much research as I can on the guest speakers. And I know that you're an LSU fan, and so I'm pretty sure you're proud of Leonard Fournette,
Yeah.
Devin
Oh
White, I
yeah,
think
that's what I
his name.
said. I wasn't mad about the Super Bowl, man. We had LSU was representing for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
both sides. Yeah, I think was
Yes,
pretty
sir.
heavily LSU represented. So,
Yes, sir.
um, but I do love the idea of just getting people to love themselves, to really embrace who they are. I think that there's a defining line in, how much you should really idolize the other person, right? I alluded to in the very first episode of the podcast how Michael Jordan is arguably the most popular athlete to ever live,
Hmm.
right? And there was even a song coined, like Mike, I want to be like Mike, right?
Yeah,
But no
yeah.
one wants to put in the work that Michael Jordan had to put in. I mean, this guy
Man, no.
alluded to taking thousands of shots after games that he
Game.
lost,
Yes.
and I mean, just remarkable effort. And so, not trying to catch you off guard or anything like that, but I wanted to talk more about how difficult is it for you to get people to believe in themselves?
Ooh. Man, that's we are our own worst enemy. That is even with myself. I mean, starting a business, that was the same thing. It's just like so much just negativity can enter your mind. When it comes to training people though, I really I call it the mirror effect. Well, there's actually one client I trained named and she's actually a stay-at-home mom, but she adopted I think four or five kids. Yeah.
Okay.
And so so of course she's not thinking, I want to be competitive and I want to be in shape, but I'm mom, I gotta balance my schedule, all
Right.
of this stuff, so there's so many negative, thoughts that are coming in her mind, why I can't do it. I was like, all right, let's just get started, see what happens. So we were training. And I coined the term the mirror effect.
Mhm.
So basically, what it is that you're sitting here with all these negative thoughts in your mind. Look in the mirror and let those negative thoughts be the mindset and what that person in the mirror is telling you, and you're seeing yourself as, hey, I can only, like you said, I can only deadlift, or I can only bench press this amount, or I can only do this many reps, whatever. um that's what that person can do. You now you have something visually to look at, and from there it's almost like looking that person in the eye, like almost like a sibling rivalry, like, hey,
Mm.
so and so can do it, my older brother, my big brother, big sister can do this, I can do it too. And it's like you always want to outdo them. So I was like, that's kind of what I had her do. Man, she was let's see, I think she weighed about 190. No, she weighed about 200 right there at that time. She wanted to get down to 180, man. And so like her deadlift was like around 135. And I told her, all right, let's push it right here. You're looking that person in the eye and tell them you're better than them. She did it. And I didn't even tell her how much I put on there. I put 200, I think 215 on the deadlift thing for her, on the bar. She didn't even know. Just picked it up, just
Man.
found something, just inner anger. Just, and so I told her it was more than what she had done before, but I didn't tell her how much more. And so it's just like that, it's really, your mindset can hold you back from so much. And it's like we're physically doing something, but
Mhm.
mentally it's like we just, put barriers up. And so it can be tough. That was I love that situation. That was one of my favorite stories, but everybody is not that. Some people actually have a lot more, and not just mental, but even physical, you know, things that are holding them back. And so it's really just, you just got to work with it, just kind of layer by layer, break it down until you get to where you're at. So
Hey, I mean, like the old adage goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
exactly.
You have to trust the process. I think that's something. I'm a huge Alabama fan from Alabama, so
All these
love.
elephants, huh?
Hey, right behind me, right? I love Nick Saban's coin that he said about 10 years ago now, but he always tell his players to trust the process, right? I mean,
Right.
you come to Alabama because you want to do one thing, you want to win a championship, but you have to be willing to do what champions do. You have to be
Exactly.
willing to work, you have to be willing to put in the sweat, the blood, the tears, everything that is required on the field. And so, I mean, just and thank you for sharing the personal testimony regarding your one of your clients. I think that it is remarkable to have someone to push you, because sometimes our mindset can like hinder us from even trying to take it to the next level, or from engaging into an activity that we already feel defeated in. And so it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're not going to get better thinking that way. So I think it's great to have someone like you to push your clients to make sure that they get the best out of their bodies as they can, to even get the best out of their mental capacity as they can. So um, I think one question that I had that sort of that relates to this is when people talk about weightlifting, right?
Hmm.
It's, I guess for some people it's easy to start, right? But it's so hard to like hold on and stay physically fit. And so they get, after failing a couple times at being consistent, they become afraid to take breaks. And I know you probably had the unfortunate opportunity to witness this, but I've witnessed it, and people have. And here's what I witnessed: some people, because they're so afraid to take breaks, they end up hurting themselves. They
Hmm.
end up not getting enough rest, and they just immediately quit altogether because their bodies cannot handle the way that they're pushing themselves. And so, is it possible to take a break from exercise without losing fitness? If so, how much time off is considered too much time off?
Well, you play sports, so coaches always tell you use it or lose it. So
Yep.
we'll start off with that one. But honestly, it I guess I mean we'll probably get into this, but it really is not looking at exercise as a sport, I guess. I don't know exactly, but just looking at it as moving, just looking at it as movement. So we called it physical activity.
Mhm.
So you didn't have to tell your grandma, hey, let's go exercise or let's go work out. Your grandma would just like, all right, let me just do some physical activity in order to get moving. So
Right.
that's kind of how I would look at it with this. Yes, you can lose what you've done, and taking a break would be a detriment to whatever progress you made, for sure. But you can in other ways be active, and so you're not so far behind whenever you get back. And
Right.
so, like, I mean, obviously I played college basketball, played basketball since I was 7 years old. So obviously you can only get better from the time you're 7 to the time you're 17 to the time you're 21, whatever. And so yeah, as soon as that third year rolled around of college and I stopped playing basketball, yeah, it was all gone, man. So that's why I even started becoming a personal trainer, is because I'm like, I got to do something, because I'm
Right.
clearly not in organized sports anymore. So I have nobody yelling at me to do suicides, nobody telling me to do this. So I have to find some kind of motivation. So I mean, that's kind of what it is. So obviously, I'm not running to 200 suicides a week or
Mm.
any or more anymore, but I am finding ways to stay active in different, so obviously, probably playing 60 minutes of a basketball game is not just, in my wheelhouse right now,
I
but
understand.
I can still run a couple games of pickup. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
it's yes, so that's what I would say, as opposed to just not doing any physical activity to where I wouldn't even be able to pick up a basketball at the moment. There are ways that you can maintain certain levels so you don't like completely, when you're ready to get back on it, just completely lose everything and start from scratch.
Exactly. And I love the way that you analyzed it and expounded on it. Just look at exercise as a movement. You don't
Hmm.
have to tell yourself to get up and walk or do things, especially back in the day with older generations. They didn't have to talk about, oh, let's get up and be active or let's get up and exercise. Like people move, we move on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I think that's it actually helps you to look at it in increments, right? I love I think the company Hyundai, which is a Chinese or Japanese, I'm just going to say Asian made car, and I know
Yeah.
they coined the phrase like we may not make the best car next year, but we want to improve in increments. We want to make something better than it was, whether that's the high beams on the car, the tires, whatever. We want to improve in increments. And so I think we can take that and apply that to our physical makeup. Whenever we get into exercise, as you stated, just look at it as a movement, put it down to at least a bite-sized level where you don't have to chew. Going back to the old adage, as I stated before, you don't have to chew the whole elephant at one time. It seems
Yeah.
overwhelming. So, yeah, really appreciate that. I think another area that we can get into, both you and I share a common faith. We're both Christians, and so regarding like our Christian faith and weightlifting, is there a parallel between weightlifting and our Christian walk?
Ironically, I actually just did an article on comparing strength between, like, physical strength and spiritual strength. And man, I didn't even think about the parallels. We make parallels in sports and in Christianity often, especially, people who have faith, whether they're Christian or not, members of the church or not. Um, man, but yes, I would say yes. The simple answer for that is yes. You think about how you would start working towards a certain goal, whether it's just in sports, whether it's getting better at free throws, getting stronger so you can be stronger on the line, whatever. We all have goals and we have programs that we set. Christianity to me is exactly the same. I mean, I
Mm,
think there's no coincidence in the fact that Paul used so many examples of physical activity, marathons, we got races, we've got, talking about buffing it. He even talking about working out, so he just didn't get carried away because people was, tripping over Christianity back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's so many parallels. Um, and I think as far as Christianity, and kind of looking at that parallel, yes, like we have programming. So you're going to want to sit down and figure out what your weaknesses are. So with personal training, that's kind of what I talked about in this article. With personal training, if I have a client, then I'm going to first, before we even touch a weight, before we even touch a cardio machine, we're going to do an assessment. I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm also going to eventually do some actual tests, some physical tests, so I can
Mm-hmm.
see where your strength lies, what your weaknesses are. Same thing as with Christianity. We look in that that mirror, and it'll reveal a lot of stuff to us. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, with like I said, with that, it definitely is, we can see where our weaknesses are and know where we need to grow. um and we have all the tools. God has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. I mean, we have all the tools we need. It's almost like walking into a weight room and there's everything you need to be
Exactly.
better. so I mean, you even got your support group, man. So it's just like, God set it up I, perfectly. I think there is so many parallels between being physically fit and being spiritually strong as well. So yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. I think you alluded to a bunch of examples, especially the Apostle Paul. Another thing, which is part of the reason why I coined the phrase for this podcast, right? I look at sports and the exact same way that Paul looked at sports. He sees the metaphor for life when you look at
Mhm.
sports. There are so many characteristics that we can take from athletes and what the sports demand, aka also requires from the athlete, and that we can apply to Christianity. And so I think a lot of that really just sort of makes it fun, right? So like you can look at Christianity and say that it's boring, or there's just so many rules, right?
Yeah.
Sports have a lot of rules too. I mean, a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
rules that you don't even know they have until you see a flag and then you hear this sort of idiotic
We're all like, what?
reference.
Yeah.
Like, what? When did
Right.
that rule come to existence, right? But
Exactly.
the athletes still have fun, right? They still have
Mhm.
fun. They're still able to showcase their talent, but they must do so within the confines of the rules.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think, as we can understand that, we surely can understand that when it comes to Christianity. So, yeah, thank you for that. I think Paul is a perfect example to look at, as you stated. 1 Corinthians 9, Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 talks about that great
Mhm.
race. And so, and a host of other passages that really compares sports to our Christian walk. So, Destiny, I'm sure you know that we live in a culture that is obsessed with appearance. Okay,
Oh
people
yeah.
want to be beautiful. They want to look good. You see magazines with guys with nice pecs and things like that, huge biceps. And as a guy, I look at that and think like, oh man, I never get there. Or man, that guy, it's like, look at his biceps though. Like this man, he looks good, right? And then as a female, you see other girls maybe on the cover of sports magazine, and this girl is toned, she got nice legs or whatever like that, and then the girl says, man, I want the same thing. Like how can I? It must have taken her years to do that, right? And so it's like, social media, commercials, movies, etc., portray the perfect human body to like showcase our favorite celebrities as having the ideal figure, or of which to
Mhm.
model our bodies after, and things like that. This issue was even prevalent among the Israelites when choosing a king, right? So they chose, if, I'm sure you remember, they chose Solomon, right? Or not Solomon,
Oh
but
yeah.
Saul. They chose Saul.
Softball. Yeah.
And Saul was this tall, handsome glass of water. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Right.
he uh he walked and he was head and shoulders over the people, and the people were willing to follow him because of that. Just
Yeah.
because of that. They knew nothing of his leadership abilities nor qualities, but because he's tall and handsome and he looks physically imposing, I'm going to follow him. And so
Mhm.
when they looked at David, yeah, David was he was just a stark contrast. He was like, okay, this guy's a shepherd boy. He's skinny, he's short.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why would we follow him? But God through the prophet at that time says he doesn't look at the outward appearance of people, but he looks at the heart. And so as we get more into like the real grimy type stuff, um, the first question I have is, is there a stigma when it comes to women and weight training? And if so, like, what are they? What are just a few of those?
Ooh, yeah. Um, okay, so I know for sure, and I'm just gonna even throw this out here because I know a lot of people. I've heard people say, "Man, either I want to be strong like you, talking about me, or I don't want to look like you."
Mm,
And let me just say that I could not. I mean, I haven't done powerlifting training in the last 6 months, and I could probably still bench press 200 pounds. This is not to brag. This is legit.
mhm.
Just this is my family genetics. I mean, if anybody's seen my brother, he is a freak of nature, and he's only 17. And so,
Man, goodness.
and so, yeah. So it's. I mean, we don't know where in the world this came from because my dad was like the little stick figures kids draw whenever they're younger. That's what my dad looked like in college, or even at 17. And so we don't know where this came from. Anyways, uh, but just to say that it, man, with women, it's they don't even want to. Some women don't even want to touch weights because it's like, oh, I don't want to look bulky. I don't want to do this, that, and the other. Which is no. And I mean, it's just kind of just a lack of knowledge in that area. Women looking stronger. Uh, it kind of it's not just for women looking stronger that people have a problem. It is the idea of this, what is it called, strong independent woman thing they have nowadays. And so uh that's considered, oh, they're too good to be submissive. It's like the feminine movement, like everything ties in. And so there's a lot to it. The only thing I would tell people with that is you got to everybody, it's relative. Fitness, health is relative. You are not going to just pick up a weight one day and all of a sudden you just look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like
Mm,
it's not how that works.
right.
Um, and so with that, I would just say, I mean, like, long story short, man, it's a way of training, and it's also nutrition, and it's
Mhm.
supplements. I mean, you're not just going to look bulky with that. Some people, no matter how hard they work out, are not even capable of that. I have a guy friend that he would love to look half the size of some men, and he can't because it's just not in his genetics. So but back to the women. But I mean, yes, there's definitely either you're going to look like super skinny and like a size 1 or 0 waistline, or you're going to be the super fit, muscular girl. And that's everybody else in between is just kind of like, I guess now we're kind of getting this, movement where, what's it called? I can't remember the movement name, but anyways, it's like you were women are, if you're in plus sizes, and hey, you're, you're the new next best thing. And yeah, like I said, everybody's health is relative,
Mhm.
but there is a different, I mean, sorry, everybody's fitness level is relative, but health is not ever. You can be plus size girl, but if you're not healthy, then we shouldn't be just like, oh yeah, she's a big girl, what we say, thick now,
Mhm.
No, I mean, yeah, it sounds all cute and dandy, that way we, people can be, I guess, glorified in that, but it doesn't mean you're healthy. And so but just kind of get back to your question. um, like I said, you have to. There's a certain training level and there's a certain nutrition level that you have to even get to this really bulky, scary look that people are talking about.
Mhm.
That's, I guess, almost masculine. But other than that, I mean, work out, people. I mean, that's why I say train. If you have questions, if you are trying to avoid something or you're trying to get something, ask the experts with that. Or I
Right.
mean, you can even do your own studies. But yeah, don't just automatically assume. Even
Right.
when you're talking to people, don't just automatically assume that. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that you pretty much just analyzed that perfectly. People are afraid before, as we stated before, engaging into the activity. One website that I was looking at, an article that I was reading earlier, and back in, I think it was written back in 2018 by Hester Boyers, who I think at the time he was a sociology major, PhD student at Durham University. And he conducted this research and entitled the article "Lifting the Stigma from Women in Strength Training." And so in the article, this he points out that the social barriers that prevent women from engaging with strength and training. He points out the expectation being different between men and women regarding, their gym workouts and stuff like that. But interestingly, after reading the article, I noticed something. He never mentioned any hard, fast rules that says, girls can't go to the gym and lift weights. Girls can't go to the gym and power train or anything like that. He instead he mentioned like loud music. He mentioned guys grunting in the gym. He mentioned guys working out with their shirts off, and he also mentioned guys having the knowledge regarding how to use the machines and the weights in the gym. And the way he used that almost seemed that the girls or ladies were too afraid or were sort of had low self-esteem, and they weren't really sure if they would go into the gym and they want to start lifting weights. But if I go into the gym, I'm going to embarrass myself because, hey, guys are in here. They know how to lift weights, right? They're grunting. They lift a lot of weights, and so for that fact, I'm not going to go in the gym, right? And I think, I mean, what would you say to that? Like, is that a reason not to go in the gym, or?
Uh, well, I think we need to look at. I always want to go back to this because I don't think many people consider it. Just like sports, the fitness world is very, very male dominant. It just is. But I think that comes from, you got to look back in history. Um, when you think of the Greeks, you think of, like Olympics and stuff like that. That was what men do. Women weren't even allowed to be in the vicinity of that. That was, so this is, we're talking about performing, and we're talking about like doing this for fun and recreation. Um, which is kind of what the fitness world is nowadays. But still, it's actually much more needed. The reason why I say it's different is because back in the day, we had or what we call the hunters and gatherers. We had even not even that far back, like our great grandparents and our grandparents were people who worked on farms, and they went and got their own. Like even the women were they was back there cutting chicken heads off and hauling water from wells. And this is them being, like we've talked about before, physically active. This is not them working out. This is just physical activity that's going to keep them in shape. Your mom can carry around a 60-pound kid because that she does. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's like moms don't realize, hey, I can't lift this. Girl, you've been toting around this child this whole time. And so it's, I don't think we really think about that. And so yeah, now we get into this world now where we all have to work out in order to stay in shape, because this is what we're doing. We're sitting in front of
Exactly.
cameras, and we're sitting at desk and talking to people. Hello, okay, yeah, this, and checking out. We're just standing in one spot all day. Yes, that's majority
Right.
of American jobs is what that is. And
Totally
so now
administrative.
we got to, yeah, so now we have to bring back physical activity as a recreation or a side hustle.
Right.
And so now, yeah, now you're looking at this now that women really have to be in this what was once a male dominant arena, because we need it for our own physical health. It's like we need it now. It's not just recreation anymore. And so yeah, now I think it's kind of hard for women to kind of mold into this, because now we have this, it's still a male dominant thing. We're still doing it for looks and aesthetics and things like that. um no, women, get in there and get the reps in, get the cardio in, so you can stay in shape and get longevity from this. Don't have to look at it the same. We don't need to be trained the same way guys are. um, you don't need to be doing 500 pounds for 3 to 5 reps, because you're trying to get stronger and you're trying to look massive, trying to grow your muscles. That's not what we're doing. I mean, I tell women that every day, man, get in there and do multiple reps with lighter weight, because we're just trying to, what we say, tone, get
Right.
lean. And that's it. It's not, and it's all about nutrition. You're not about to be taking in hundreds of grams of protein a day because you're trying to build muscle. No, this is, you eat healthy, and supplement your body, and get at it. You get in there and do 30 minutes of cardio and get out. You good. You don't have to worry about, Man, when I was powerlifting, we was in the gym for 2 hours.
Mhm.
This was a different. You're training differently. If you have goals in mind, you're training differently. If you're just trying to maintain health or get healthy, then it's not the same. So I think this stigma is really from people not understanding what true training is, what true fitness is.
Right.
It's everybody. It's relative. Like I said, if you're trying to get bulky, there's a difference from me trying to just stay in shape. I don't need to be doing all that.
Right.
And so it's
Yeah.
just
And people,
education, I guess.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Education, ignorance cause people to have misconceptions of things. And thank you for redirecting the focus, right? The focus is on maintaining that health, having a healthy lifestyle. And I think most people, if that was to remain the focus, we wouldn't look at it, especially females. You don't have to look at females as trying to compete with men or trying to compete
Right.
against men. No, I mean, they need the physical health as well. And so, I mean, when you think about weightlifting and things of that nature, I kind of want to get into one of my most favorite female athletes, and her name is Allison Felix. Okay, so Allison Felix, super talented American track and field sprinter. She was interviewed one moment or at one particular time, and it was interesting, right? She was asked in the interview that if you achieve the same things you achieved, would your success be different if you were a man? Now that
Hmm.
is a question. Like,
Hmm.
and to that, I was waiting and eagerly waiting to hear her response. To that question, she responded with the illustration, and the illustration that she gave was so profound that it caused me to really think. And I even challenged my wife and my cousin with the question that or with the illustration that she gave. And here's the illustration. She said, "Ask someone in the general public who is the greatest basketball player or who is the greatest football player, etc." We could have a heated debate regarding that for over an hour.
All
But
good
if you
points.
ask the same general public who is the greatest women's basketball player, they wouldn't know where to start. And so you don't
Hmm.
have a conversation. And I thought about that. I said, well, surely I know some, great female athletes. And destiny to my shame, I did not. The only person I could think about was Candace Sparks. I think that's her name, Candace Sparks, who played for the Los Angeles, or not Candace Sparks, but
Candace Parker.
Candace Parker, who played for the
Yeah.
Los Angeles Sparks. I think is the name of the team.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't, to my shame, I just couldn't go outside of her. And I thought to myself, like, man, let me test someone else to see if this is true. And undoubtedly it was. And Allison Felix even went on to share how, for a female athlete, in order for her profile to be raised or in order for her to be marketable, she had to be beautiful, right? So she couldn't come off the as a track and field sprinter. She couldn't leave the track all sweaty and things like that and go, and be and have her picture taken and it be on the front of Sports Magazine. No, she has to be beautiful in her uniform.
Right.
And she alluded to that and she said, there's just so much extra work. She doesn't see those same requirements held over male athletes. And she specifically named, guys like LeBron, KD, Tom, and other, phenomenal athletes. They don't have to get pretty. They don't have to get beautiful in order to
Right.
have their picture taken and they be on the front cover of Sports Magazine. And so she openly stated that she hoped men and society could see women for their athletic ability and just appreciate that. Like, allow what I do on the track and field to be enough, to be
Right.
appreciated and to be praised for what I do. And so I guess my question is, are females who lift weights to gain muscle, are they to put more effort into looking feminine?
Ooh. That is. I guess that again, like I said, everything is probably going to be the same answer. Is relative. Um, it's a preference. And it really just depends on, I guess, your self confidence and things like that. For me, I was definitely the tomboy type. So I can just only speak from my experience. I know a few more women powerlifters, but to me, like looking at them, I'm like they're already girly enough. Like outside of, I mean, the girls here when they dress up, they'll have like the slim black dresses on and in the heels and hair laid and everything. Whenever they want to dress up, and I'm just like, you know, My mom used to call me Superwoman when I was a kid because I mean, as being a PK, of course we had to make sure we were Sunday's best. And man, as soon as the last amen, I was out of that dress in a heartbeat, man. I'm like, get this mess off of me. And but either way, like I guess just with that, I wouldn't say you'd have to try hard. If you're already like the girly type, then so be it. You put your ponytail up and you lift your weight and you take your hair back down and you strut off, whatever you got to do. That's, I mean, legit. Same thing with me. Like I was powerlifting. I don't know. Like I would just still myself. I don't know. I don't feel like you really just have to like try so much harder to be girly. You just gotta find it's with even normal just girls who don't work out. You just gotta find what fits your body style. And so like, when it comes down to even want to look, I guess girly for what people say, um, even me without working out, I might have broad shoulders regardless. And so I have to find things that are gonna fit me to where it looks feminine, because I used to be insecure about things. I'm like, man, I look like a guy. I mean, I said I look like an NFL linebacker with a dress on is what I used to say. And it just, that was my self-confidence. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have it because I felt like I could only either identify as Destiny, the strong girl, or I could only identify if I ever tried like, to be like super girly, then it's like, that's me. And I'd have confidence in both levels, but I didn't have a way to being confident in both, if that makes sense. And so the only thing, I mean, I'm working on it now. I was the type of girl that everybody when I was younger used to make fun of my eyebrows because they're super thick. Never did anything to them. And like it was already hard enough being strong because I was, like I said, even high school was that girl that was super strong. I had to work out with the guys because I none of the girls were challenging enough. I every time I'd have to put the 45 pound weights back on and take them off because whoever my workout partner was couldn't do it. But just kind of going back to it, it's really, it really depends on the person. I think you really just need to find the self-confidence to feel beautiful for who you are. If you want to work out, then that's what you do. I mean, if you work at McDonald's and you get all greasy, you smell like grease when you come home. I mean, like you still know you're pretty. You still know you're like, I'm working. This is my job. Same thing. Same thing with working out, man. If you that's what you want to do, you're just legit lifting weights for 2 hours out of the day. I mean, you got a whole 10 hours that you're up or even more to feel beautiful. Go lift
Right.
your weight or go do whatever you got to do. That's your little moment, and that shouldn't take away from you being feminine. Shouldn't take away from you being girly.
Right.
So
No, I appreciate that. I even more so appreciate you sharing the very personal side of your story regarding like some of the physical characteristics that you just have because of genetics that you can't necessarily do anything about, and just trying to find clothes and things that fit you, and being joked on about some physical features that again you can't necessarily do things about. I know there are a bunch
right.
of females that can relate, and really, what I just want to get into, if you don't mind, just try to get a little
Mhm.
bit, not too personal. And of course, you don't have to share any information that is too personal. But whenever you, again, we're Christians, so whenever you think about like Christian expectations or expectations from Christians, and then the expectation from society, you have a sort of like two different standards, like two different expectations that you want to try to meet because again, you're a Christian and you live in the society. And so like, do you ever, find yourself trying to live up to the expectation of society and even some Christians who have their ideas of what a lady looks and acts like?
Yes, and that's because I don't fit the mold of what feminine is. Um, like I said, I could not work out for months on months at a time and still. I mean, if you don't know, I back in November I tore my patella tendon, so I have not been able to train like a madman like I used to, and so
Mhm.
so that's kind of been like a downer. But with that being said, like I used to train 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I haven't been able to do that just because I mean, like I can, but it's like if I can't do a full body workout as opposed to I can legit only do upper body and abs. I can't do any squats or anything like that. No lunges, none of that. And so the things, I mean, like I was talking to my friend today, it's like super hard to even get 1,000 over. Yeah, you know how you get to 10,000 steps on
Oh,
your,
yep.
well, I can't even do that now. Like
And the
it's
Apple
a
Watch is
simple
going to let you know too.
you need to stand up, I guess.
Yep.
It's basically exactly. So yeah, so I mean that just man, from somebody who goes to training 2 hours a day to that is just kind of crazy. But man, yes, because society has it where everybody needs to look like this.
Mhm.
And then
Great
as if
illustration.
you're yeah, if you're a woman, and so like, and you got to be able to have like this Coke bottle figure, all of that. I don't, and so it's just weird. You can definitely let society get to you, and that's kind of why I feel like when I was younger, it's even now sometimes it's like I don't feel feminine because it's just like when I look in the mirror, then I feel like I have to try a little harder. Some girls can wake up. To me, like, because my best friends are like beautiful, and I'm just like, they can just wake up out of their sleep, and I'll be looking at them, and I'm like, I gotta hurry and get up before everybody else get makeup on and all this type of stuff to make sure I look feminine. They can just get up and just like, all right, let me brush my hair and I'm good. And I'm just like, sometimes you feel like that. You didn't get in your mind. But I think it really is society, and people are kind of like, hey, I don't let society dictate, what I think is this and that and the other. But if you're scrolling through Instagram all day and you see you see Angelina Jolie, you see Demi Lovato, you see who else is there, man? What's her name? Jennifer Lopez, 50 years old, looking good as mess. Yeah, you
Hmm.
like it's like you see all these girls, you just scrolling. I mean, that's your definition of a beautiful woman because that's who is highlighted in the world right now. And
Right.
so those figures, even people like who was that? What's it, Jennifer Lawrence, I think. Yeah, with the Hunger Games, like she did this whole thing of like thick girls, and I'm looking at Jennifer Lawrence. I'm like, you ain't even that thick, And I'm just like, I mean, she is bigger than most, I guess, would come on TV. But I'm looking at her, I'm just like, you're not. I mean, you still you still got a very feminine figure, like compared to me sometimes, and I'm just like, and so yeah, society is definitely. I mean, it's on social media, it's on TV. This is what we see, and that's what we base our lives off of, even if we don't want to say it is. I'm like, so yeah, it gets hard to feel comfortable in the skin you're in whenever that's what's appreciated and accepted. And and even like I mean, I even branched even into the dating life. Like I feel like that's what everybody's people are looking for. I had to get on my brothers one time because they're just like at the one time they're just like I guess people at the time they started being really interested in girls was like you had like Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande and Demi Lovato and who else was there? Miley Cyrus, all these girls, that they were watching on Disney Channel and
Hmm.
Nickelodeon. So they were my brother like had this big thing for Latina girls, like, and that's just kind of it was either them or everybody else is ugly. Like, you started like shaming black girls
Hmm.
and all this type of stuff. And like even I mean they're younger, they didn't really realize it, but
Right.
this is like who society, now like 2020, 21, it's like, now people are trying to open up to, accept black, more now. Of
Mm.
course, even black
Yeah.
girls are trying to be more natural haircut, their hair, not put so much weave in and stuff like that. This is society. I mean, if a black girl had to be in a show, she had to have weave in, your hair had to be bone straight, so people and it's just what it is. But I think even going into Christianity with this kind of does Christianity kind of get molded by society as well? That's a definite yes. It's I mean, I guess we kind of get, and then definitely the older people kind of get in this old school mindset of if it's not this and it's not right. But I'm like, modesty, as long as it falls in the lines of modesty. I mean, I don't know what kind of new styles are nowadays with certain colors, like considered immodest to the older people now because it was red, black, gray. What else are they? Maybe like this lavender color that was like all the older people wore now, but now we got like highlight pink and
Hmm.
lemon lime and all this color. Then we're just like, oh, that's too busy, you know. I'm like, man, you know, we got to really look at, you know, what's going on and realize that it's not necessarily some things are society, but some things are just, you know, I don't know. And so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I know as a again, just going back to the idea of being a Christian American, right?
Hmm.
You have pressure, right? I mean, as a human being, you face pressure. You have different stressors that you face on a daily basis, but it's just a little bit different and more unique and peculiar as a Christian because you're trying to identify with Christ, but at the same
Hmm.
time you live in a society that you try to at least be somewhat normal. I mean, the
Yeah.
Bible calls us a peculiar people, and rightfully so. I mean, as a Christian, it's going to be odd to the world how we act, the way we believe, and things of that nature. And so it's like sometimes it's not uncommon to realize that some people, some Christians, actually fall and give into that pressure. I think back to, I think, First Samuel chapter 8 verses 11 through 14, where the children of Israel wanted to be like the other nations, right? They wanted a
Hmm.
king so bad, and it wasn't that they didn't have a king. I mean, they had God, right? God fought for them. He delivered them through various battles and had proven himself, faithful and trustworthy, but yet they still wanted to be like every other nation, right? And so I think that even just sharing your story and listening to some of the things that you had to face, I mean, could you just share with us like how, how hard or how difficult was it for you to remain grounded and to sort of overlook the pressures from society?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. For me, I mean, there's certain things that I'm a people pleaser in, but there's other things that I could care less what people think. Um, my personality and I guess sense of style was one thing I could care less what people thought. Uh, so when it came to like, you know, what people were wearing, I was never into like, I wouldn't even like the person, hey, I need Nikes. You know, everybody had to have the Nike Elite socks when we were playing. I don't care, like, give me some white socks. They about to get messed up anyways because I'm about to be playing
Right.
basketball. You know, I wasn't thinking about that. I mean, and that's probably just how my parents. I mean, we got all those things. We had Nike socks, but my Nike socks weren't as valuable to me. I knew they cost more. They weren't as valuable to me as another good pair of socks by Hanes or,
Right.
Fruit of Loom, whatever. I mean, as long as they serve their purpose. But I guess I'm thinking of anything that was even hard for me growing up. Um, Man, I don't know. Like, I guess it was you kind of got teased maybe if things weren't name brand. So that would probably be the only thing that you would have to get over. And sometimes just the fact of getting teased about something would be enough to make you upset about it. But other than that, it wasn't like I was ashamed of what I had or anything like that, or even what I wore. Um, I guess maybe is that kind of what you're talking about, or maybe am
Oh,
I going
no, no,
off the? Yeah.
absolutely. I think just to even clarify a little bit more, um, so you mentioned like, and I went through a phase too where you have just this ideal woman in mind, right? You have
Hmm.
this again, you have social media presence, you have movies, things like that, and you have these women, and most of the times
Hmm.
if you look at commercials carefully, there's always a woman who is the prominent figure in commercials, movies, and majority of the time she's not modest, I guess I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so yeah, along with your brothers, there was a time that I did have my ideal, expectation of a woman. And so, just for you, Destiny, like how has, because I know I've heard this from so many females that say that I can't help my shoulders are broad. I can't
Yeah.
help that I'm physically imposing or more imposing than some other females. It's not that, I feel masculine or I'm trying to be a guy. It's just the way I'm genetically made. And so, I mean, has that affected you as far as like relationships, or, I mean, has that been a hindrance to you, or, I mean, how do you look at that?
Um, I'm old school, for the lack of better terms. Not as old school as most would think, but I am when it comes to my generation and the generation underneath me. I am definitely old school. I realize that, like I said, we're all about looks first. And while you do need to be physically attracted to somebody, um, I think we look at people and that's our instant judgment. Don't judge a
Right.
book by its cover. So if I'm thinking, I was talking to my brother about this on the phone either yesterday or the day before, because we're like Valentine's Day is coming up, and they're both in relationships, and I'm like single, and I'm just kind of like, man, what? I don't even know. I got to get in that mindset. But I was like, I've heard so many people like, you're too independent and all this type of stuff. Because I mean, like, I don't know, but they don't ask. We don't talk enough. So
Mm,
it's like people see me being like on grind all the time. They see me working out. This is the things that I post. So this is the
right.
things that people see. But my best friends, like, I mean, I don't know if you know Renee and like some of these girls that I hang out with all the time. They know me. They know that I could care less about fitness. If we're about to come in here and hang out, don't talk to me about fitness. I don't want to talk about it. I legit That's my job.
Right.
That's a hobby I like, but that is not my life. And like it was even talking to my boss the other day, and it was like, I don't even know if this is like this is my calling in the world. Like I love it, but there's so many other things. I love interior design. I love cooking. People know I love cooking too. Those are
Mm,
two passions I have just as much as fitness. Like I said, but fitness is just something that we have to do to stay in shape. So but anyways, so with that, I was just kind of like down because I'm just like, I guess this is what people want, are these super skinny girls and things like that, and I don't know. um so for me, yeah, I was getting down on that. But I think with it, I kind of was questioning like, why wouldn't a guy want as an independent woman? But I'm thinking in my mind, like I want to be a mother. People know I love kids. I watched. So I was used to be babysitting kids at the age of 10. Like people just trusted me. I was a good kid. People trusted me, and that was just the thing. Our dad used to be like, hey, uh, we about to go out for this date night. Y'all staying here. Destiny's in charge. I'm like, Dad, I probably a little too young to be doing this, but don't, we're older now. Don't call CPS on me. But it's just like, I mean, I love kids. I've always been a nurturer. People know my brother Gabe loves kids. Gabe can hold somebody's kid for 2 seconds and they'll be sleeping. It's just, I mean, it's just how I am. But and women love Gabe for that. Just like he's so cute. But anyways, and so I want to be a mother. I want to be a wife. But people, the way they see me on social media doesn't look that way. I look like this super dominant woman is going to be trying to be in charge, like the ones that you see on TV, like the Medea shows, where you got this
mm,
super independent back woman that you can't
yeah.
tell her nothing. Yeah, and I'm like, that's not me. I mean, but you have to get to know me. So kind of what I was saying about being old school, like if you just look at me from what you see, only what you see, then you're gonna make the judgment and be like, hey, I don't want, she's not gonna be the girl for me because I want a submissive wife. I want somebody who I can come home to and house is clean and all this stuff, which is those are good things. Those are good things to have, obviously, because it causes balance in the family. But you gotta ask. Those are things I desire, but nobody would know unless they ask me. So it's kind of like they've already weeded me out as not somebody who would do that because I don't look docile. I don't look this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying to be negative towards people who do look that, but that's just kind of what it is. Like, people, I've heard that so many times. Like you're just really independent. I feel like, I'm like, man, if I didn't have to work a 9 to 5, I wouldn't be doing it right
Hey, right.
now. I mean, if I could stay home and be a housewife and then, clean up, I love cleaning. Like I can't function unless the house is clean. People know I used to have schoolwork done, had to be done at 11:59. Of course, everybody knows they've been
Yep.
been there, done that. And man, if it's 9 o'clock p.m., I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna get started at 10, but this house has to be clean before I can function. Like that's how I am. I
Amen.
love cooking and things like that, but you have to get to know me in order to do that. People don't get to know each other anymore, and so I think that is kind of one of the hardest things is for sure is that we don't talk, and if we do, it's kind of like this every good morning, what you doing? How are you? How your
Yep.
day going? Good morning, what you doing? How you like it's consistent. Like we don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Don't ask each other about our dreams and hopes and things like that. So
And it's actually ironic too because you have social media and research shows that the more that you interact on social media platforms, the less social you become. And I think that's unfortunate because social media, along with any other media platform or services, can be a great tool if we use them properly. And a
Yeah.
lot of the characteristics and qualities and things that you like, I love. I love to clean. I like to cook. I hate washing dishes, but I like to cook. And and I mean, I have a son. I love taking care of my son. I don't purposely tell my wife like, "Oh, it's your job to hold my kid or hold our
Right, right,
kid."
right,
You know, I
right.
I take responsibility. I change him. I bathe him. I lotion his body. Those things. I just feel like, as a parent, as a human being, I love to serve other human beings. And just listening to you, share that, I think that was the entire point that God was stressing in First Samuel 8. He looks at the heart. He doesn't look at the
Mm-hmm.
outward appearance. And in order for people to know your true desires and what is your life, or what categorizes your or classify your life, I have to ask you, I have to say, hey, Destiny, what do you like doing? Which are some of the, I guess, sort of introductory things that you ask on a date anyway, right? It's like, hey, what do you
Yeah,
like?
yeah.
But I have a cousin who, I mean, she's single, but she's a remarkable woman, right? And she, some of the questions that I asked you about, like physical makeup and just some physical attributes that you can't necessarily help, she has some of those things, and I know that for a while, she had low self esteem about that, and she, would think that guys don't like her because of that, and it's really unfortunate. And I'll just tell you this, and I'm going to announce it to the world one sooner or later, but my wife and I are thinking about starting a group, especially with Fourth Quarter Christianity, that deals primarily with couples getting to, or with people coming together who are serious about marriage, who are serious about dating, to be married, and who are serious about being social. That's the ultimate. Those are the ultimate three rules to join this group. And we're going to do that because for young adults, I feel like the modern dating apps that we have, I mean, they're trash. You meet up with people that are
They're
not
meant for
serious.
hookups. To keep it, just keep it 100%. It's just they're meant for hookups. Just
Exactly.
quick conversations and stuff like that, and that's it. So
Right. Exactly. I mean, guys, I heard this from a cousin. Like, guys lie in the profile, even dating apps that supposedly have Christian people on them. They lie in the profile and say, "Oh, I want a wife," but as you just stated, ultimately they just want to hook up. And once you deny that, it's like, oh well, hopes and dreams are over.
exactly.
It's
And then once you think about it, I mean, you put a bio in there, and you try to be as detailed as possible so you can make sure you get the right one, people,
right.
and you realize for some people you're just giving them a script.
Right.
So if you tell me everything I need to know before I even start talking to you, then now I know how to, like. I mean, if I'm thinking even in the sense of a guy, now I know, like, hey, I can smooth talk this girl because hey, I got everything I need. Oh, she's a Christian. Oh, so I know she will, some of the values she'll have.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't smoke. She doesn't drink. So let me make sure I kind of go in here as this this good kid, this good guy. But then and you basically get her hopes up, and then right there,
Right.
it is kind of, and so it's kind of definitely, like I said, it's just meant for, like, hookup. You don't really get to know anybody. You won't ever, unless you don't want to meet them. Like, I, God forbid, please, people, don't just go randomly meet somebody by yourself.
Exactly. I
And
mean,
so it's scary. It's really a scary thing. So yeah.
right. And I think our world has definitely sort of you know I mean, when you think about it, even before you think about like the people that get onto dating apps, you have to think of their backgrounds, right? Some people are really predatory monsters lurking through the grass, and
Mhm.
they're just waiting to pounce on this person that they deem weak, or
Mhm.
sort of gullible, right? And they're trying to enforce their will on them and take advantage of them. And I just think that, as a young married man, that I could help assist, especially young adults, with helping them get connected, helping them find each other, and then have real conversations. And so that's just something I'm looking forward to in the future. And I know that you mentioned about college and things like that. I'm currently in college right now, trying to finish up my secular degree in criminal justice.
Bless your
And
heart.
yeah, quarter's almost over, so it's been a long ride, but I
Yeah,
should be finished in 2022, hopefully. So that's the goal. But
for sure.
um, as we get into the next question, I think that you alluded to earlier about being a tomboy, and I mean, when you think about, at least in my childhood, when I think about this phrase, I heard, certain women classified as tomboys, and it was used in a sort of joking manner or a way to humiliate the woman or the female that the people were referring to. But then on the flip side of it, I've heard, as I heard you state, I've heard females classify themselves as a tomboy, and it was used in sort of a glorious manner. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the movie, what was that? Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
My Hayden Panettiere's, yeah, girl, yeah.
yeah, the girl that you just named, like her, she was in the movie, and Denzel brought his daughter over to play with her,
Hmm.
and you could see the stark contrast, right? Like, she's out, playing football and working in the yard, but Denzel Washington's daughter is like, she's just a pretty
You're
girl,
right.
and so when the girl throws the football, right, she's like,
Yes.
just got my nails done.
You're like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, right. So it's like, I mean, could you just go a little bit, talk a little bit about that? Like, what is a tomboy?
Well, I mean, honestly, yeah, the term is definitely derogatory. It's kind of like you just go with it. It's kind but I don't know. For me, it's just obviously I would, for one, much rather choose t-shirt and shorts or t-shirt and sweatpants over some of my friends who know will just wear a maxi dress just because that's their like normal attire. Like, bless their hearts, good for them. I like closed toe shoes. I do not like my feet out. It's not even an insecurity because my dad tells me, "Oh, you have pretty feet." I'm like,
I
but
wish I did.
look, the Lord said your feet are beautiful now in Romans.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
you're preaching the word. So go ahead, brother. But yeah. So I I guess that would be one. And two is I will call you bro. I mean, that's just is what it is. I mean, when I was dating a guy before, he would laugh at me, but he would just call me bro back. He was like, "All right, bro," like. But that was our little thing. But it's, I mean, I don't know. I grew up in sports. That's just kind of how it is. Guys tend to know when you're tomboyish because I've played basketball with guys, and it's like it's an obvious no, but it's like in the heat of the moment they don't think about it. It's like, how when you're playing basketball and you do a little slap on the butt.
Yep.
So like, it's clearly I can see like I'm not the girly girl to them because that's happened before, and then they kind of like. I don't even think about it because I'm like, you just made a good shot, and I'm like in the heat of the moment, and then we're getting back on defense,
Mm-hmm.
and then like after the game, like he will walk up to me like, "Man, I'm sorry. I feel so like," and you can tell like their faces are red and they realize what they did, and I'm like, "I appreciate your apology. Don't do it again, but I mean, I understand, it's kind of like one of those things where, you kind of, you love what they say. You're one of the boys.
Yeah.
And so, and then my I didn't have my cousins were younger than me. My uncle and aunt was 1 year and 2 years older than me. So, and my aunt was definitely tomboyish. So I just kind of didn't have any chance. And then 4 years later, I had a baby brother. 8 years later, I had another brother. So, and then another brother. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it was. And growing up, like I said, I wasn't with most of the girls. Be legit, the only two people I hung out with the most was Victoria and Renee. And they're girlier than me for sure. Renee is definitely, she's into like all the skincare and hair and makeup and stuff, and I'm just looking at her like, you're doing great. I support you and whatever you want to do, but yeah, I'm just like, yeah. So I'll every now and then I'll let them doll me up, whatever. But I don't mind. I don't mind getting dressed up at all. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. Like I feel like
Right.
there's just so much and so much to it. And my dad's like, yeah, you have so many pretty features. Just what's the word he uses? Eccentric. Basically, just highlight them. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to wear some mascara, do this and the other, then do that. So I don't mind doing that type of makeup, obviously. But just as far as waking up 5 minutes 10, 20, 30 minutes earlier to put makeup on first thing in the morning, and I already got to wake up at 5:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's not me. That is not me. If I'm waking up at 5:20, I'm about to hit snooze too. so, so yeah, I'm legit like get up, I get the hairbrush, make sure you brush your teeth, wash your face. I go with it, make sure presentable. But other than that, it's just like I don't know. That's just how it was. Um, but like I said, I do like to dress up. It's just my idea of dressing up is just not finding some like knee high skirt and all this type of stuff. It just I try to find what highlights whatever. So I'm definitely a skinny jean type. So since I already have these muscular legs, you might as well bust your calves out a little bit. And so that's so wear the black skinny jeans with a nice top and maybe a shawl or something like that.
Yeah.
That's my style. But just kind of make it work. And it's not that I'm just being tomboyish about it. It just if you want me to be comfortable, like just say if I'm with a guy and I want to go out on a date, like you just want that person to be comfortable and not feel like I'm having like to pull up my skirt and all this type of stuff all the
Yeah.
time. Or just I just want to be comfortable. And that's kind of always where I've been. I guess comfort can be you can be comfortable to a fault, but I don't know. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Even just listening to your illustrations and examples, people do consider tomboyish to be, girls who, I guess, more so classify with styles that would normally be considered guy styles. And I think that it's important to just really point out that, masculinity and femininity doesn't, technically designate you as a guy or a girl. These are just, they were coined as traits that are more commonly found in, as masculinity is more commonly found in guys, and femininity is more found or commonly found in girls. And so, like, for instance, some of the examples that you gave with cleaning, cooking, taking care of babies, those are feminine characteristics. But I do those things. Does that make
yeah.
me, a girl? Well, no. I mean, I have feminine characteristics. Masculine characteristics are aggression and weight training, physical activity and things like that. You do that. Does that make you a guy? No. I mean, you're still a girl. And I just think that's something that people often misconstrue because, again, ignorance and not choosing to be educated on the matter can really just hinder people, especially when it
Well,
comes to relationships and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as say like there's some things that are more dominant within. Like so, I mean, yeah, definitely I would say feminine and masculine things are definitely associated with the gender, but I would go as far as saying that we maybe label some things as feminine and masculine that are not necessarily you cleaning what belongs to you is a responsibility that every human guy or girl has a responsibility to do. That's
exactly.
your child, you take care of them. uh I mean, that's kind of like it's my mindset with. I mean, people disagree with me with this, but I mean, I really don't care. It's not a matter of salvation. But when it comes to like that idea of people say 50-50, and I'm like, nah, why don't we just do 100 and 100? You give 100% of what you got and 100% of what I have. And what that means, like if I'm talking to a guy, if I'm dating a guy, or even if I'm married, give 100% of what you do. If you see this person, hey, yeah, that's the wife, she's normally doing the dishes, but she just cooked and then now the baby is struggling, with whatever at the moment, you can go wash the dishes. It's not
Right.
That's not a just a like a feminine trait. That washing dishes is not a feminine trait, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That is part of the responsibility of being a wife or being a mother, but that is not a feminine trait.
Right.
If you're a bachelor living on your own, you got to wash your own dishes.
Exactly. No one else is going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my point with that. It's just like maybe we just kind of label things that are not necessarily masculine or feminine, but it's not necessarily that, hey, this is a feminine thing, but guys can do it too. No, it's just not either or. We just label it that way.
Exactly. I think again it just points back to not being educated or just being so quick to jump in with the crowd and mislabel things when technically that it doesn't necessarily mean that. So
Yeah.
but I guess as when you think about like sports and stuff, and I know you alluded to playing sports in college, which is phenomenal. I think I had an opportunity to play at Pine, I think it was Pine Belt or Pine Christian or something like that, Pine Baptist, I think, in Arkansas, for football. And I didn't want to go because I know that it was ultimately my dad's dream to see me go and play sports. And obviously, everyone has the dream of going to the NFL and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
so at the time, I was my junior year being scouted by really NAIA schools because I went to a small school in Alabama.
Yeah.
We were a 2A, class 2A. And so there were only 50 people in my graduating class. And I mean, just super small. So I remember training with my dad over the summer. I would go to Minnesota and we would do 2 a days. Sometimes we'd do 3 days. So getting up at 4:30 in the morning, training with him. And then I have an early session at 11 a.m. With a professional trainer at the gym. Then come back at night. You got to run, the light poles, and we called
Yeah.
those death sprints. Hated those, and it got to the point where my junior year, I'm 230 pounds. And don't get me wrong, I love the muscle mass and things that I was able to
All right, it's a
acquire
lot
over
to
that
tote, man.
time. Yeah, I mean, I loved it, but I also love to play basketball. So it was like it was so physically taxing on my body to leave the football field, to leave football conditioning, to
Oh
come in the
yeah.
gym, and I would always drop like 15 pounds
Oh
just
yeah.
to play basketball. And I remember telling my dad like, upon junior year, signing day is approaching. I'm like, don't want to do that. And I had became
Yeah.
a Christian at 16, and it's like, you know, um, most of my family aren't Christians, but I became a Christian at 16 because of my football coach. He taught me the gospel, and I told him, I was like, listen, I want to go to school, but I don't want to go to school to play sports. Like, I want to go to school to
Mm-hmm.
educate my mind. And I think most people don't, they didn't really appreciate that. And he considered that to be sort of a weak move. And some of my other family members, not my dad, but just some of my other family members considered that to be a weak move, and just giving up the sports and stuff like that. So many Christians and religious people, just going back to the idea of sports, they fear that their daughters specifically will have an increased chance of becoming a homosexual or a member of the LGBTQ community because they play sports. I mean, some even
Yeah.
argue that females who are sort of predisposed to homosexuality by their environment or genetic makeup are nearly sort of guaranteed to become a lesbian or a transgender. So I mean, I want to know what you think about that. Will playing sports or weight training lead to the ruin of feminine character?
No. No.
I think you're proof of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that is. I mean, I've done studies, and I'm not a psychologist, so when I'm saying this stuff, this is just from observation, experience, and all that. Studies. You don't. You not. Most people, honestly, are not going to become a homosexual or this, that, or the other because of the environment around them. Um, it's going to be heavily influenced. I mean, most of the time that would only happen with kids who are growing up to learn, I guess developing a personality and growing up to learn that. Most of the time, I've seen cases where, like, maybe on that what's that movie? I mean, the show Toddlers and 3 Hours, where like the parents will legit try to sway this little boy into being really feminine. Um, and after he grows up and he's like, dude, I like girls, like forget this. This is, you guys got me doing this foolishness, but this is not me. And
Right.
so that's because that's who he is, regardless of what they're trying to portray. So even growing up and playing basketball and playing sports, man, there were quite a few yeah, on my basketball team. There's definitely heavily, but I mean populated with, there are homosexuals, there are gay people in there. But there's just as much very straight, very feminine girls on my basketball, both of my basketball teams, college and in high school.
Right.
So, uh, like I mean, most of them are married with kids, or even if they're not married, they're definitely still straight.
Right.
And so, um, and I even a couple of them who were definitely gay, considered gay in college, or there's a couple of them that are actually dating or married to men right now. So
Right.
I think maybe for a little bit, if your head is not on straight, then no pun intended, then you're then you're then you're then you can be influenced maybe, but I wouldn't say that that's where that comes from,
Right.
if that makes sense. A lot of these people go through trauma and maybe don't even deal with it until it's fully exposed to them. Um, but I wouldn't say that yes, yeah, girls playing sports and being on the softball team or the basketball team, and now you're about in college, you're not. She's definitely going to be gay by the time she comes out. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
So so same thing with someone. I think it honestly, I think it's the same thing with somebody who's probably never touched alcohol or smoked smoked something before or done drugs. It's probably I think it's the same thing as it's a sin that you get exposed to and may experience while you're there, but then you're not. I mean, doesn't necessarily mean you're that's just going to be who you are. If I mean, I don't know. That may be a bad illustration, but I definitely don't think that just all of a sudden you go to sports and now you're considered going to be really masculine girl now.
Right.
You like I said, if you get there and do what you got to do. And I got to college and I was definitely on go mode with my academics. Like it would bother me. I legit only played 2 years of basketball because I'm like I don't like the fact that we got to depend on if our teacher is going to be super sweet with us. So like, oh, you're on the basketball team. Yeah, we'll give you an A because I haven't been in class all week.
Right.
And no, I hated that. Like, especially if you look at Ecclesiastes 9:10, like, I got to either give 100% in basketball or I mean, and there are people who do it, but that's not how I'm wired. Everybody, like I said, always, it's relative. And for
Right.
me, I got to try to give 100% to basketball and I got to also try to give 100% in the classroom. But legit, they only schedule you to be able to be in the classroom when you can, and then when you're not in the classroom, you're playing basketball. You're doing basketball things with the team. And so I'm just like, then where's the homework that I have to take home from class? When do I get to do that? And I had to stay up till 12 a.m. to do that, and we got to wake up for practice at 5 a.m. So just like this is insane. So
Right.
like I mean, I know people do it. There are so many people who do it, but I mean, it's really in the grand scheme of things. I was like, I'm not going to play WNBA. I'm already short as a post player. I was I was already short for a post player in college. I'm 5'9", and most girls I was playing was like 6 foot, 7 foot. They had this one girl who was like 6'8", and I'm just like I'm getting beat up down here.
Man.
But I mean, and so for me, I'm just like this is not what I want to do. I want to, and I was made the dean's list 3 years in a row, things like that, and got academic scholarships because my grade GPA was high. And like I said, I'm not bragging, but it's just like I noticed that I was able to do better in the classroom once I kind of let that go. And got to
Right.
be student president. I got to be the president over vice president over the couple of clubs and a couple of things just because I was just able to be fully involved. And that's something I wouldn't be able to do much of.
Right.
So
And I think that takes great courage and discipline to even, acknowledge an issue or a problem and go ahead and take action and do something about it and go ahead and solve that. And
yeah.
so I think that's fantastic on your part. True measure of a student athlete and just a phenomenal student. So Destiny, as we prepare to just wrap up, I wanted to just sort of close out with this question. Are there I know that you own Beyond Our Best, and I just want you to just briefly give people an opportunity to connect with you, leave maybe some contact information, or just tell people how they can connect with you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, either way, I have both separate. My personal information. If you guys want to get hold of me for like personal training or even just like spiritual matters and stuff like that, you can reach me. My Instagram is uh, Destiny 24 underscore fit. That's on Instagram. Obviously, my name is just Destiny Dindy on Facebook. I'll even throw my number out there because I legit it's everywhere, so people can contact me 337-496-7907. If you want to follow Beyond Our Best movement, you can look up Beyond Our Best Life on Facebook and also on Instagram. It is Beyond underscore our underscore best. and that's on Instagram. And so, like I said, join the movement, man. Even if it's just following and liking. I mean, it's gonna be good content. It's good Christian, Christian posts on there as well. Just if you want daily motivation and encouragement, I'm making sure that I post something every day, and we're getting our kids involved. That's the main thing. I want kids to be involved, young adults to be involved in something bigger than themselves, but they feel like you don't have to worry about the world infiltrating and taking over, and there's no schemes or anything going on with it. So that is my information.
I appreciate that, Destiny, and I look forward to connecting you with other people and then connecting other people with you. And I'm so thankful that you accepted the invitation to come on as a guest speaker.
Man, this
I
was
learned a
fun
lot
for sure.
from you sharing your story, and also I thought about a lot of new ways I can now approach people who may deal with similar issues and things of that nature. And so definitely look forward to implementing the things that I learned, and I hope that this episode will I'm sure it will be valuable to the lives of people who are listening, as it has been valuable to my life. So again, Destiny, thank you so much for appearing on the show, and I really appreciate your comments.
All right, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode. I pray and hope that this episode has added value to your life and has benefited you in some way. Please subscribe, leave a review, leave a rating for the podcast, allowing me to know whether or not these things that have been discussed are helpful. If you have things that you would like to hear discussed, please submit those, and I will make sure to get around to those. And please remember, this is a podcast for emerging adults. I believe and feel very strongly for my generation, and I think that we need more avenues where we can sit and discuss very practical issues and receive very practical answers regarding those issues. So again, please just take the time. If you have anything that you would like to hear discussed, please submit those, and I will be sure to get around to those. Until next time, please implement the things that you've heard. Go out there and be the Christian that you were destined to be. Thank you so much, and God bless.